Many times have you been in a situation where your significant other, your spouse, your loved one comes to you and says, "Does this make me look fat?" What you say next makes a difference. What you say next makes a difference. You can say, "Well, you know, it is a little tight and you show those love handles a little bit." Got a smart answer? No. Or you could say, "Oh, honey, you would look good in anything. You're just so beautiful that, you know, the dress is great." Okay. You could be asked the question, you know, "What do you think of my new car?" And what you say next is going to make a difference. You could say, "Oh, what used car lot did you get that from?" Or you could say, "Oh, that's just beautiful. It fits you perfectly. It looks like you." Makes a difference, doesn't it? All of those things that come to us sometimes whenever we're asked a question or whenever we even make a comment or an observation, the important thing is not the observation. The important thing is not the question. The important thing is how you respond, because how you respond really does make a difference. And how you respond in connection to who you are talking with can make the difference between friendship, love, you know, or separation and confusion and hurt. And so it's so important in our lives today, especially in our lives today, to think about how we answer things and to think about how we are going to respond to situations that we find ourselves in. We can either brush it off, which makes the person who asks the question feel insignificant and not worthwhile, or we can lie about it, which makes us wonder about the credentials of the whole situation, or we can say something to smooth it over, or we can respond with our true thoughts and feelings. And all those are different possibilities of how we can respond to the world in which we live today. And what's going to make a difference is who we see we are. Who we see we are and how we understand who each of us is. Because each of us has a concept of ourselves, right? If you were to be asked, "Who are you? What kind of a person are you?" And if you were free of threat and not suffering from low self-esteem and everything else, you could honestly respond by saying, "Well, I'm more a shy, retiring type person who likes to observe and see what's going on before I make comments." Or you could say, "I'm a type A, let's go in, let's get it done, and let's get past this," and you'd feel okay about it. And we could say, "Well, I am more of a doer than a thinker. So if you come up with the ideas, I'll do them." And we have that concept of who we are. And when we operate out of that concept, then what we say makes a difference. Because what we say either reinforces that belief about ourselves, or we go away thinking, "Oh, well, I sold myself short again. I gave in." Does that make sense? I mean, are you with me here? Are you awake? Okay. How many of you aren't with me? Maybe that's a better question. But it makes a difference because what we say reflects who we are. And that's important. There was a town, a small community in England that was famous for having its oratory competitions every year. And famous orators from around the world would come and give their orations, and then they would be judged, and there would be declared a winner, and it was quite a prestigious thing to be the winner. And so one time during this oration competition, there was this local guy who was well liked by the people of the town, and he had gone all over the area putting on shows and giving speeches, and the people just loved to listen to him. And so at the end of the competition, he had won. He had won. And so as he was out on the stage getting his award, he said, "Well, I have a few minutes here. If any of you would like to hear one of my orations, just tell me, and I would love to say it for you." And so someone raised their hand and said, "Could you do the 23rd Psalm?" And he said, "Yes, I love the 23rd Psalm." And so he stood up there and started off, "The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want." And he went on through, and everybody just thought, "Oh, this is so wonderful. He is great." And then they saw this little man, older gentleman from the community, walk up and stand beside the orator, because the director of the competition had asked him to come up and close the ceremony by saying the 23rd Psalm. And so he came up and he stood beside the orator, and he nodded to him, and he started speaking the 23rd Psalm. And by the time he had gotten into the second line, people in the audience were just amazed and transfixed. And by the time he had finished the 23rd Psalm, everyone in the congregation, the audience, were in tears, because they felt this love from his soul coming out through the recitation of this scripture. And as he finished, the orator, who was standing beside him, who was also in tears, said, "Ladies and gentlemen, now you know the difference between someone who knows the 23rd Psalm and someone who knows the shepherd. The difference between knowing the 23rd Psalm and knowing the shepherd that the 23rd Psalm is about. Because who you are inside and what you know makes a difference on how you say things and how you live in the world." There is the scripture then today about the young man who was blind from birth, and Jesus comes by and meets with him and makes some mud, puts it on his eyes, and his sight is restored, and he had never seen anything in his life. Can you imagine what that would be like? I had a friend in college who was an artist, and she said, "I love to paint because when I was in the grade school ages, and in about 4th grade," she said, "I thought the only way to get the assignment off of the chalkboard in the front of the class was to copy off the person in front of you." Because she said, "I couldn't see the chalkboard." And she said, "I never could." And so I always thought that the first person wrote it down from the chalkboard, the next person copied it from that person until it got back to her on the back row. And she said, "I never thought anything about it." She said, "I thought trees were just a big mass of green. I thought flowers were just dabs of color." And she said, "And then I had my eyes tested and I got glasses. And she said, for the first time in my life, I saw leaves. For the first time in my life, I saw petals on flowers. For the first time in my life, I saw the assignment written on the front of the classroom." And she said, "So now all I can do is paint." And she would paint with great detail. Everything was in great detail because her life had been changed by glasses. glasses. Something that brought to her new sight. She could see. And she celebrated that every day of her life by painting details and taking forever to get from school to her house because she was always looking and stopping and examining things that she had never seen. So I can't imagine what this man his experience was when he all of a sudden, blind from birth, could see. Oh my gosh, all these things that we take for granted are things that he had never seen before. We don't even see the ceiling in this room anymore because we come in and we're used to it and we just focus on whatever we want to. And then the Pharisees come along. And Jesus had done this on the Sabbath. Well, that's a no-no. And Jesus had done this and he didn't get the permission of the Pharisees to do it. He didn't get other people's okay, but he didn't do it on the Sabbath. And so the Pharisees are saying, well, obviously this isn't a man of God who did this because he healed on the Sabbath. And a man of God would know that you don't do anything on the Sabbath like that. So this can't be of God. And so they went to the young man and said, who brought this sight to you? And he said, well, this man named Jesus, he came and he put mud on my eyes and then I could see after I went and washed. And he said, you know, I'm sure he didn't say it that calmly. But he told the Pharisees what had happened. And a little bit later they say, are you sure? How did this happen? And I love his line. I've already told you and you didn't listen. Why do you want to hear it again? Do you want to become a disciple too? And they didn't take that too well. And so they brought the young man's parents in. And they thought, okay, they were asking who sinned? Because we know if this man is blind, someone sinned to cause this. Because everything has a cause, right? Everything has a cause in our human minds especially, and we want to know what the cause was. So the Pharisees, the people of the church, the leaders of the synagogue, the holy people of the people of Israel, were saying, okay, who sinned? The boy or his parents? Who brought on this blindness? If you have seen a man healed, if you have seen a man healed and receive sight, why is it that we so often say, how did that happen? Why was he even blind in the first place? Well, Jesus did this on the Sabbath, so he can't be of God. Why? Who did this? And why did they do it? And who said what? And get the parents. Let's do some research here. Let's find out what's going on and why. And you know what? Jesus said nobody sinned, but this was done in order that God might be glorified. Now that's just as confusing to me as the rest of the story. Would God bring on blindness so that God could heal the blindness and people would think good of God? Is that what this means? Do you think so? Does that fit with your concept of who God is? Does that fit with your concept of how God works in the world? It does for a lot of people. God needed to show the rest of the world how powerful God is. And so this man was born blind. This child was born with a deformity. This person was born with a cleft palate. This person was born with a feeble mind. This person was born with autism. And this person was born so that God could say, look, how good I am because I can fix these things. I don't think so. I don't think that's the kind of God we have. I think we have more the kind of God who would say, look, this child was born with a deformity. We don't know why. Genetic makeup, things that went wrong with the pregnancy. This person was born blind. We don't know why. Maybe in a few years we can do some tests and find out that not all of their sight mechanism was developed completely. But we can see that it doesn't matter so much why this person is blind, as it matters how are you going to respond and live with this person who is blind. And that's how the person has been developed and has blindness so that God can be glorified. Not that God did it, but that since this is in our midst, we are supposed to have the light of understanding of our God so that we can say, oh look, here is a child of God, here is a young man, here is a person of faith, here is a son, here is a brother, here is one of us, and he can't see. So what does that call us to do for him? What does that call us to be? Who does that call us to be so that we can glorify the goodness of God that we have come to understand in this situation? Think on that a minute. The other day I heard on the news that there had been, I think, a 14-year-old girl out east somewhere who had been raped. And the news reporter said that there was a young 14-year-old girl who had been raped, and the person who raped her was an undocumented person, immigrant. And it just goes to show that we need to be tougher on undocumented people. And also, the high school didn't do research when they welcomed this young man into the high school, and they should have done more background checking to see who this person was so that this wouldn't have happened. And finally, after they were discussing this back and forth in the culture and language of today, a woman came on and said, this isn't about immigration. This isn't about the fault of a school system. This is about a young girl whose life has been changed forever. And if you're going to spend your time talking about why it happened and who did it, you're just leaving her alone in her pain and her suffering because you've taken the easy route by saying, oh, we could have prevented this if these kind of people weren't around. Oh, we could have prevented this if there were more laws and that the school system followed those laws. We could pass more legislation and we can do more things to get rid of people who are undesirable and shouldn't be here anyway. And when we do that, we miss the point of being people of God who have the opportunity to find the situation and glorify God. And glorify God. To say the real issue here is a person has been violated. A person has been attacked. Her security, her sense of herself is never going to be the same again. And she is going to have to live with that the rest of her life. And what's your role, our role? As people of God, as people of light, as people of water, who are we and what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to glorify God. Glorify God in this situation. But it's so much easier to start asking, who sinned? Who sinned that this happened to this girl? Who sinned? Was it her or her parents, or was it the school system, or was it the government that didn't protect? Who sinned? Who caused this? Because when we focus on who caused it and whose fault it was, then we don't have to deal with the difficult situation of what happened. Of what happened to a child of God. When we spend our time going off on these tangents of what went wrong, we forget that these are people involved. These are people who are experiencing what's going on. And that doesn't mean that we have to throw the law out. Jesus never said, I came to do away with the law. Jesus said, I have come to fulfill the law. And if you love over everything else, then you are fulfilling the law. You are fulfilling the law. It's easy in this day and age. Probably easy in every day and age. But it's easy for us to understand the difficulty we are having as the people of God right now in trying to decide which direction are we supposed to be going. What are we supposed to be doing? How are we supposed to follow and make laws that are good for the people of this land? I remember the words of the young blind man who said, I don't know where this guy came from. I don't know who he is. I don't know if he's a sinner or a righteous person. All I know is that I was blind, and now I can see.